And this is the patch 7.1 Mage update. Not a whole lot has actually been changed for Mage. A lot of the changes that were in patch 7.1 were damage changes. But what you'll see, probably right off the bat, is that I have actually changed the layout for Arcane. I've done this for all 3 specs. There's been a few changes to the Arcane spec in general. Number one, I went ahead and changed the location of icons, added in more talent options and buffs and debuffs and everything that they offer. But more importantly, in the rotation, I've changed the way that it predicts your spells. Now, depending on how many arcane charges you have, it'll tell you what the next spell in the rotation is. It'll even tell you next, right above the icon, so that you know that once you finish that cast, that is what you are going to be pressing next. It just makes it so it weaves between spells a little easier than it did before, whereas everything was kind of showing up at the exact moment you needed to cast it. Other things that have changed, there's now an arcane missiles timer bar flashing right on top of the icon, so you know that you're casting arcane missiles and give it a second to finish. And arcane power will flash once you hit your maximum arcane charges, so that you know it's a good time to cast it. And Evocate and everything now functions based on whether or not the arcane power buff has been or if your buff has fallen off, and it'll function a little better. Now, like I said, I've gone ahead and updated all of the UIs for them, and they are all now symmetrical, whereas before they were not. So now when you switch between them, you should have the same clean look for all 3 specs. And a few things that changed here: there is now an Ignite tracker, and I went ahead and moved the Fire Blast cooldown tracker to the right. There is also now a hot streak tracker that'll tell you if you're heating up, if you have hot streak, or it'll tell you you're stone cold if you haven't gotten a crit in a while. But that'll help you understand the time you have until your next hot streak, and if you aren't using the in-game overlays, then it'll be a little easier for you to keep up with what's going on. I've also added in a Dragon's Breath cooldown because there is the legendary ring, and tracking that cooldown is very important if you have that ring, but in general it'll be a good thing to have just on your screen. And the final spec, Frost. Frost received the most updates in 7.1, and a lot of them have to do with the way the rotation tells you what to cast next, and also just some visual cues. A few things that have changed: Ray of Frost now has that overlay that counts down the time remaining on the cast. I went ahead and added a few extra conditions so that while you're casting spells, it'll go ahead and show you the next ability in the rotation so you know what to cast. And I've also added in a Fingers of Frost cooldown tracker, as well as the icicle stacks that you have in the same form as a resource. A lot of it is just to make it so that it's a little easier to see what you have going on and whether or not you are able to take advantage of everything that you can. And I've also improved Flurry so that it should show the Ice Lance icon a little sooner than it did before. Other than that, all the cooldowns and everything will highlight and show their buffs and everything active just as they should. And I've also added in any missing talents that were not in the profile previously. But yeah, I hope you guys like what you see, and I will catch you in the next video.